Like James said, my name is Mike Hodgson. I'm one of the pastors here. You may say, oh, I know that guy. Welcome back. You may know me and say, oh, man, that guy again. Either way, I'm here. I'm glad you're here, and we're here together. Aww. This week is my kids' spring break, so my brain is just frazzle-fried. So if you don't mind, let me get a little bit of prayer in, and then we will jump into where we're going this evening, because if not, yawn. All right, so let me pray, please. Lord, we thank you so much for who you are and for what you're doing in our lives, Lord, and in our community. Lord, tonight we ask that you move in us, through us, around us, and bring us to a closer understanding of who you are and how we respond to you. Lord, I ask that you just empty me out. May this not be about me. May this be about your word, and may we hear from you. And God, we love you, and we thank you that you desire a relationship with us, even sometimes in spite of us. Lord, it's in your name we pray. Amen. All right. I actually just got really scared. I'm afraid of heights, and being a big guy, falling down is not a real good thing. And so I noticed that this, what am I saying here? This carpet here is close, and I thought it was actually the edge of the stage. So when I got done praying, I'm like, oh, I'm falling. So anyway, that's just where I'm starting right now. Yeah, speaking of, that actually wasn't planned, but that kind of transitioned. You ever have one of those moments in life where you're not exactly sure what's going to happen next? It's those moments that you look back on, you kind of want to get them over with because it's a little intimidating or scary or kind of unnerving, but at the same time, you were so stoked about what's about to happen. So it's one of those, you kind of want to fast forward, but also kind of want to slow down because this is going to be one of those moments. I know for me, at times the stomach gets a little crazy, the hands get sweaty, the mouth gets dry, and I kind of get jittery at times. I'll be jumping and bouncing, just kind of like, all right, let's go. It's kind of the feeling I used to get. It's full disclosure. Used to be the feeling I get before trying to call a girl that I wanted to impress. I'd like put on some music and be like, yeah. I'm like, hey, what's up? Hey, okay, it's cool, it's all right, bye. Oh, I suck! And I hate myself for it. That's all right, that's totally cool, full disclosure. It's also the feeling I used to get before I'd get into a fight. I kind of had an anger issue growing up, and so it's odd how you equate calling girls for the first time in fighting, but for me, somehow, it worked, all right, because I lost it both. So, either way, I'm okay. Aww. Anyway, if you look back on your life, if you've tried to do anything, there are plenty of those moments that you're just not sure how they're going to turn out. If you've never taken a risk and you know exactly every step is going to turn out, there's a word for you, it's boring. So all of us hopefully have made some choices that you're not sure how it's going to turn out. For me, I could just look back and back on my life. There have been moments that I think of. I have two older brothers, and I remember standing on the corner of my parents' house with a trash bag over my head, about to jump, knowing that this probably isn't a good idea. I was much younger. I didn't know yet. I also remember I have a huge passion for music, and so at 15 years old, I started my first band, and we got an opportunity to play this club in San Francisco. And so I remember standing on stage at 15 years old, looking out and going, oh my gosh, not sure if I was going to get excited or throw up. I remember doing other things that got bigger, loading up my van. I decided I was going to move from the Bay Area to Oceanside in 24 hours. I was hanging out one day. A friend said, why don't you come? And I'm like, all right, cool, let's do it. I loaded up everything I owned, said goodbye to my parents, and left. And super scared. I remember driving and looking at the last exit on the freeway that I knew that went home. Everything else was unknown. Just like, oh my gosh. I remember standing in front of a crowd of about 500 people at the old church campus and saying I do to my wife, and just thinking, oh my gosh, if I blow this, I'm the biggest idiot ever, because I don't know if another woman would say yes to me. So I just pray that I don't ruin this. And then about 6 months ago, it's the feeling I got ringing a doorbell, standing behind this door, knowing on the other side there were these 4 little kids that would soon call me Dad. There are moments in life that you're so freaked out, this moment has so much impact on the rest of your life. And yet it's those moments that set us up for sometimes victory and sometimes huge, huge failure. But if you take a second, and maybe you're thinking through those moments in your life, And you start to think about not only what was happening, but also you start to see the faces of who was there with you. And I'm willing to bet that most of the time you have those great successes or even some miserable failures, a lot of that was determined by the crowd of the folks you were with. For me, standing on top of that house with a trash bag over my head, my two older brothers said, "Hey, it works like a parachute. Trust us." So, of course, I did. I'm scared of heights now, so I'll just leave it at that. I did not land so well. Standing on the stage for the first time with friends, I was scared to death, but I had my 4 best friends at the time with me. Loading up my van and moving south, I had my parents saying, "Hey, you could do this. You'll be successful." And I had a great friend here that was saying, "All right, cool. I got you." Getting married and standing there with my wife, it wasn't just about she and I, it was about, our families in the front row, our friends who came out to support us. It was also the bridesmaids and groomsmen that stood next to us saying, "We believe in you, and this is good." For standing and knocking on that door for the first time, knowing this family was about to change forever, it was looking at my wife and holding her hand saying, "You sure you want to do this?" She says, Yeah, I want to do this. I said, "You sure you don't want to run? Because we can." She says, No, we got to do this. Not that we have to do this, we got an opportunity to do it. But it was so scary. But knowing that she and I were in this together and knowing we had a great family and a church community that supported us in these decisions were huge. I'm willing to bet as you look back on life, it's the faces, it's the times, it's the memory that you can go back and say, this was that big moment. This was my success. This was my failure. This was the moment where things turned for the better or sometimes for the worse. Regardless of what we do in life, our memories are riddled with the faces of people who have influenced us. Hopefully for the positive, but let's be honest, sometimes for the negative. Jeff asked me, "Hey, I'm going on vacation. Would you mind filling in?" I said, "Yes." He said, "Talk about anything you want." I said, "Okay, I know exactly what we're talking about." Because for me, as I went through junior high and high school and then into college and then into career and then into being married and now becoming a dad like at light speed, all these different times I look back and I realize this is the reason why I'm here. Not simply because I made some choices, but because the right people that were around me and helped me get to the right spot, sometimes even in spite of me trying to do the wrong thing, they said, "No, we're going to get you." So this is what I want you to do. If you got your Bibles, open them up. We're jumping into a book called 2 Samuel. We're looking for chapter 10. And this is one of my favorite Bible stories, one of my favorite characters. 2 Samuel chapter 10. Old Testament, kind of in the first, 8 or 9 books of the Bible, something like that. If you've been around for a while, you can help somebody find it. If you have it on your phone, just pull it up. If you don't have one, turn to a neighbor, put your arm around him. Say, "It was meant to be." Hey, I'm just saying, just let it roll. Let it roll. I know a lot of people get up and tell you, "This is my favorite Bible story." And pastors, we have to say stuff like that because it kind of sounds bad if we're like, "Dude, I hate this Bible." It's not good for us. But there are some great stories in the Bible and ones I'm like, I never want to talk on that because it's real convicting. That means I got to do something about it. So anyway, we'll work through that stuff later. So this story is one of my favorite stories because it really shows you exactly how life can go depending on who you are with. You get 2 guys in a situation that was set up kind of outside of their own situation. There were other people to work in, there were different decisions that happened, and 2 guys end up in a really crazy situation. One turns out great, and we are speaking of him, and we remember his battles and his stories, and one we never hear of again, and he is wiped off the face of the earth, simply because of who they are with and the situation they're in. And I'm willing to bet, depending on who you are with and the situations you are in, man, the cast of characters around you can completely change how things go. So with that, hopefully you got it. We're going to jump in. 2 Samuel chapter 10, verse 1. "In the course of time, the king of the Ammonites died, and his son Hanun succeeded him as king. David thought, I will show kindness to Hanun of Naishah, Nahashah, great name, just as his father showed kindness to me. So David sent a delegation to express his sympathy to Hanun concerning his father. So we jump right in. We got some crazy names. We got some people you might not have heard of. Maybe you know David. David's a guy who fought Goliath. David's a guy who messed up with Bathsheba. David's a guy that a lot of folks talk about. Even outside of church, he's a guy that a lot of folks know. At this point in time, he just took over as king. He's a pretty powerful guy. He's got hundreds of thousands of people in his army. He's one of the most influential men about town, let's say. And he's a big dog, all right? And then you got this other guy, King, we don't really know his name. He passes away, and he's a guy that I wouldn't say David's friends with, but at one point in his life, David was on the run being hunted, and he was kind of an outlaw, and this king showed kindness to him, said, yeah, you can stay on my land. Yeah, you can have some of my food. You're going to be all right. So I wouldn't say they were friends, not even business associates, just people they kind of knew. This king dies, and so the other big king in town says, hey, let's send some flowers, or hey, our condolences, sorry for your loss, and let's kind of just make things right. And then you have the young son who just lost a dad. I could not imagine the grief and the pain and the fear and just the feeling that he is going through. And with that, he gets this group of guys that are representing the king. It says, when David's men came to the land of the Ammonite nobles said to Hanun, their lord, do you think David is honoring your father by sending men to you to express sympathy? Hasn't David sent them to you to explore the city and spy it out and overthrow it? So this guy's just lost his dad. This other king is sending in nobles to kind of support him and say, hey, man, I'm so sorry for your loss. And his nobles, his kind of yes men, his guys who kind of have his ear, the people who influence his thoughts say, can you trust this guy? Have you heard about who this guy is? I mean, he was once hunted by a king. He was once on the land. I guess you could kind of say he was a mercenary or a biker or just a rowdy dude. The guys he hangs out with, they're like gang members and thugs. And this guy's going to come and say, sorry for your loss. Don't trust him. He's probably going to come and overthrow you. He's going to try to rip you off. I don't know why the guy listens. I don't know why, if it was just bad advice, if it was the ego of a young guy saying, hey, we've got to make things right. We've got to kind of stand out and be the new king. Or maybe he's just a broken heart from losing a father. But this guy makes a decision that will define his life. And it's kind of an odd one. Verse 4. So Hanun seized David's men, shaved off half of each man's beard, cut off their garments at the middle of the buttocks, and sent them away. Interesting. So these guys show up and he says, hey, look, they're spies. Well, what do we do with spies? I don't know, let's catch them. Okay, let's catch them. Well, now what do we do? You want to kill them? No, that's kind of violent. Hey, what if we make fun of them a little bit? No, that's kind of boring. Hey, what if we give them wet willies and noogies and all that stuff and just mess with them? Like, no, that's not good enough. Let's shave off half of their beard. That's good. But wait, there's always one weird dude who doesn't know when to stop. Let's cut their pants off. Yeah, let's do this. And so they shave half these guys' beards, not the length, but like the left side or the right side, and they cut off these guys' pants, say, get out, go back to David. Ha ha! Kind of an odd thing, all right? Really odd thing. Someone in here is crying inside. She's like, my parents did that to me. I'm so sorry for you. I'm so sorry. Some people just a little crazy. So it's a weird thing, but let's kind of understand why something like this would be so offensive. See, a lot of us, we got the beards rocking right now. It's kind of a fashionable thing. Way back when, though, it was a cultural thing. It was one of those things that you were known for, because at the time, free men could grow their beards. Slaves, criminals, people like that could not grow beards. So it's pretty easy to see people across the way and say, hey, you're a free man. So you were waiting to grow your beard. So it wasn't just a matter of insult. I mean, this was huge. I mean, the beard was so like epic and important to them. They would swear by their beard. Like, hey, you gonna hang out Friday? Yeah, you're not gonna stand me up again. You're kind of a punk like that. I swear by my beard. And you're like, oh, it's the real deal right there. Because if you didn't have your beard, it showed wealth, prosperity, it showed wisdom, it showed age, it showed influence. You know, you'd be hanging out with a bunch of older folks, and the guy who walked in with the longest, grayest beard, like, oh, he's a smart one. Let's ask him questions. The beard was awesome. a young man could not wait to grow a beard. I know some of you are still waiting to grow beards. It's okay. Puberty takes longer for some of you. It's all right. It's all right. That's not a dig. It's okay. Okay, a little bit of a dig. So people couldn't grow beards that looked different. People who had beards were respected. And so to get half of your beard shaved off, this was a huge, huge insult. How do you go home with half a beard? You actually had to take the time and then shave off the other half yourself, because you're not walking in like clean shaven and crazy look and all that. You just kind of realize, I've got to do this. And so these guys are insulted. Not only that, they took it that further step, that really weird step where say, hey, let's cut their pants off. There's a couple things that are kind of insulting about that. One, the obvious. You ain't got no pants on. Second, followers of God took the mark of circumcision. And so the people who saw them who were uncircumcised would look at the circumcised and say, ha, where's your God's protection right now? Not like it's going real good, half beard, no pants guy. And so it was an insult to their God. It was an insult to them. And it was just super embarrassing. It would have been easier and more respectful just to be killed off. Just for this king to kill these delegates. If he killed them, great, no big deal. People die all the time. But this was hugely insulting. So with this, these people are just heartbroken. But you got to know something about that. Is these guys represented David. So if David sent somebody, if the king sent somebody and you insulted them or you attacked them, it was the same as attacking or insulting the king. And so this guy, in his just whatever mindset, just kicked a beehive. Said, look, we're going to make fun of these guys. We're going to insult them. We're going to show them who's boss. And so they do this to these guys, and they kick them out, and these guys go walking. Verse 5. It says, when David was told about this, he sent messengers to meet the men, for they were greatly humiliated. The king said, stay at Jericho till your beards have grown, and then come back. So even the king realized, man, I don't want these guys to come home and be seen and be mocked. So you stay in a foreign city. I will take care of you. I'll take care of your families. Come on, nobody wants to see their dad with half a beard. You're like, oh, what happened? That's just bad news. And then the guy down the street's making fun of your beard because you have half a beard. It's just not a good scene. So he says, stay at home and just chill out. We're going to take care of things. We'll deal with this. It says, when the Ammonites realized that they had become a stench in David's nostrils. I love that visual. I don't know if you've ever had something so rank like you open up your refrigerator and it's like, oh, like something just punched you in the face and your kind of nose curls and you're like, having 4 kids, I smell that a lot in my house. Just all sorts of weird things. And it's like in your nostrils. It's not just like, oh, that stinks. No, it's like up there. Like you got to like shave your nose hairs to get rid of that stuff. Like, oh my gosh, it's just putrid. They become a stench in his nostrils. Not just a little stink. This is like bad, where you're walking around trying to look for something to shove up your nose because it just stinks. You're getting dirty socks. They're like, oh, okay, come on, let's do this. On hearing this, when the Ammonites realized they'd become a stench in David's nostrils, they hired 20,000 Ammonian foot soldiers from Beth Roab, Zobah, as well as the king of Mahak with 1,000 men, and also 12,000 men from Top. So these guys realized, that was funny, that's awesome, we totally shaved those dudes, and we stole their pants. Why do we shave their pants? What are we doing? And there's always a weird guy, I wanted their pants, whatever. So they're partying, they're fist bumping, whatever, and then all of a sudden they realize this is bad. So they realized, okay, we messed up, let's go get an army to protect ourselves. Now I want you to see something. David hears about this and doesn't respond. But then when these guys start to get like a fighting army, when they start to go, okay, great, we're gonna do this, this is when David responds. At first he's like, look, I know you insulted my guys, I'm gonna take care of them, not a big deal. But now it looks like you wanna come fight me? That's enough. Verse 7, on hearing this, David sent Joab out with the entire army of fighting men. The Ammonites came out and drew up in battle formation at the entrance of the city gate, while the the Amorenes of Zobah and Rehob and the men of Tob and Maach were by themselves in the open country. Okay, pause. We need to get something here, okay? So we got a bunch of different crazy names from a bunch of different places, but he says, look, he sent out his fighting men. Okay? Not just fighting men. Other parts of the Bible, they're called the mighty men. You've got to understand who these guys are. See, David, this king, he has this group of mercenaries, these tough guys, these guys who would fight for him, who would stand for him. And he sends Joab. Joab's the leader of these soldiers. See, David doesn't even go himself. He says, oh, these guys have really done it. I'm just going to send my guys. And just so we kind of understand the group of folks that are here, you could write down, I just kind of wrote this down on the notes. These guys in 1 Chronicles 11:10 starts to tell you about these mighty men. So just kind of catch these guys. Joshua-Beam, one of these guys, killed 300 men in one fight. That's pretty impressive. Abishai also killed 300 men. Benaniah killed a lion by himself and also killed an Egyptian giant. Sounds like a good afternoon. Hey, let's kill a lion. Nah, that's not good enough. An Egyptian giant. I'm in. And Joshua killed 800 men on his own. So, okay, if you're keeping score, 4 guys with a combination of 1,400 kills, a lion and a giant. Now, that's just 4 of them, okay? And these are the guys that are coming to knock on your door. If we're picking teams, I'm going to pick that team to be on, okay? These other guys are just hired mercenaries, guys out for a paycheck, and they hear the mighty men are coming, like, oh my gosh. And so what they do is the king says, look, okay, I know they're coming to my door. I know we're going to fight. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this army, set you up over here, this army, set you up over here. You guys stand right in front of the castle or the kingdom, whatever, but we're pretty much surrounding the area. There's only one way in, and there's no way out. And so these guys, Joab and the mighty men, go up and show up to this fight. And you realize, we've got to come up with a plan B. See, back in the day, ancient military, they just stood in a line and kind of walked towards each other and stab, 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 maybe throw some rocks, maybe shoot some arrows or whatever. But it wasn't very tactical. It was just line up, fight, biggest team wins, all right? So now they're surrounded, and you have this moment. This moment where you're like, okay, now what do we do? Joab saw that there was battle lines in front of him and behind him. So he selected some of his best troops in Israel and deployed them against the Arameans. But he put the rest of the men under the command of Abishai, his brother, and deployed them against the Ammonites. So all of a sudden you got to split up your crew. You're some tough guys, but all of a sudden you're going in different directions now. And like I said, you've been trained to fight forward. But to fight out, to fight around, all of a sudden your situations change. All of a sudden life isn't exactly what you expected it to be anymore. All of a sudden when you thought you know what was going to happen next, that's not happening next. And so there comes that moment where something must be done. Something has to happen to inspire his troops. And he goes for the oldest trick in the book. He goes for the leader speech. You guys like movies? Okay, all right, some of you. The leader speech happens in all those movies. All great movies start with some sort of good thing, then it goes rough, then it goes sideways. Then there needs to be that inspiring moment where they go out and fight, or they stand up for the little guy, or they do something amazing and chase after the love of their life, whatever it is. And so you have things like the greatest, Braveheart, okay? You got Braveheart before they go, I'm going to go pick a fight. Awesome. You have Gladiator right before they walk in and says, okay, stand as one. You do have Lord of the Rings where, they talk about how, the hearts will fail, but not this day. Whatever. I'm quoting different movies. Okay. Kadri's like, yes, I got it. Okay. Kadri and I, we got it. True. Maybe you're not a big epic. Maybe you're not like that. You have More Things My Speed. Before every arrest in the history of Scooby-Doo, Fred gathered the gang together and says, I have a plan, guys. It's that moment where all of a sudden, it's true, Scooby-Doo works. That's just my mindset. It's that moment where the leader pulls everybody together and they need to inspire them because they know something might go sideways. You're not sure how this is going to turn out. And so I could just kind of imagine the scene. It's pretty generic. It's kind of like, hey, just throw that scene in the movie and you got it. You got like the hero looking down on his people like, what are we going to do? And all of a sudden the wind picks up and you have like the bad guy sitting up on his throne like, like drinking something. I don't know why he laughs like Ichabod Crane, but whatever. So he's laughing, doing his thing. Then you got like the soldiers that are, I'd say they're looking at pictures of their family, but it's a long time ago, so maybe they got like drawings and stick figures on leather. And they're like, oh, look, that's my kid. Your kid looks weird. Oh, whatever. So They're looking at family, the brothers that are fighting together are kind of looking like, I don't know how this is going to turn out. People are sharpening weapons. The bad guys are just in there like, oh, we're going to fight for money. Blah. So you have the very generic scene. Almost every movie has that scene. And then he stands, and you could start to hear the music behind him. It's always that epic, like, bah, 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 and it's starting to go, and the wind starts to blow, and then Joab stands, and he talks, and he says something so powerful, so inspiring, so life-changing. It affects the history of two nations, and it affects us here today. He says, verse 11, Joab said, if the Arameans are too strong for me, then you are to come to my rescue. But if the Ammonites are too strong for you, then I will come to rescue you. Be strong and let us fight bravely for our people and the cities of our God. The Lord will do what is good in his sight. And just like every great movie, after the speech, what happens? The crowd erupts, they bang and shake their weapons, and they charge the battle. These guys are so fired up and so just like fever pitch that when they take off, just like, ah, and they go out. The hired guns, these mercenaries are like, forget this, I'm not getting paid enough for this. The armies run. Even the king's advisors take off. So these guys go and they conquer a nation and go to battle without even drawing a sword because they are so inspired by the brothers to the left and the right, to their leader who has said, look, we're going to do this. If you want to read the rest of the chapter later, it's a great story of battle and sacrifice and relationship. But I want to stop right here because these three little sentences show a lot about not just a military strategy, but also just some great relationship stuff. Sometimes in the Bible, we look at things and we just kind of skim through and we skim through and skim through. And then we go back and we read something, we're like, oh my gosh, I didn't know that was over there. Trust me, it's been there. We just weren't paying attention. And the way we look at Joab and these three little sentences could completely change our lives if we applied these to us. Because I think a lot of us need people in our lives to stand by us. You have these two guys with these two groups of people. You have the king, this young, foolish guy who's standing with just a bunch of yes men who are just hanging out telling him what to do. And he's like, yeah, it's great. And then you have King David who sends Joab, who understands this life is not just about him, it's also about the people around him, and how he makes decisions impacts them greatly. And so I simply want to pause and look at a speech that's 1,000+ years old from a little battle. It's probably been long forgotten except for the Bible. And look at it and say, how does that apply to us? And so by looking at our lives, a couple things I want to look at. Start right there in verse 11. Joab said, if the Arameans are too strong for me, then you are to come to my rescue. But if the Ammonites are too strong for you, then I will come to rescue you. He's pretty much saying, look, we've got to get each other's back. We have got to be surrounded in our relationships. I mean, it's not real mind-blowing. It's true then, it's true now, that there are strength in numbers. There are people that will stand with you and support you in the worst times, in the best times, whatever happens. If you are surrounded, if you have strength in numbers, life could be so much different. And yet so many times we want to stand alone because it's my problem. I got myself into this, I'll get myself out. Man, if other people knew what I was struggling with or what I thought about, they wouldn't treat me so well. We need to stand together, not just in a military tactic, but in a lifestyle commitment. There's a verse, if you're got your finger there in 2 Samuel, flip over about 8 or 10 books to the right. There's a book called Ecclesiastes. It's a great book of wisdom and knowledge. There's some things there you go, really? That's in the Bible? Yeah, it's good stuff. But it has one of my favorite verses when it comes to relationships. And I'm not talking about a dating relationship and I like her, she likes me, go. Those are cool and all, but we need some real lifestyle relationships that define who we are. Ecclesiastes 4:9 says, 2 are better than one because they have a good return for their work. If one falls down, his friend can help him up, but pity the man who falls and has no one to help him up. Also, if two lie down together, they will keep warm. But how can one keep warm alone? Though one may be overpowered, two can defend themselves. A cord of 3 strands is not easily broken. He says, look, there's strength in numbers. If we work together, we get more done. If we stand together, life can't take us down. If we do this united in community, in relationships, the outcome can be different. I can't tell you how many times I look back on my life and I know that the reason why it turned out the right way is because the right people were there. And I can also look back and say the reason why things went wrong is because the wrong people were there. It's one of those things that it's so just mind-numbingly simple and stupid, and yet we get so caught off guard by it because we live in such a me-centric culture. Hey, I'm going to do my thing. Hey, I'm going to go to an event like this or a community like this as long as it meets my needs, as long as I feel good about it, as long as I get what I want, as long as on. And then when we get down in the dumps and life hits, we think, still, I'm going to deal with this my way. But God never designed us to do this alone. It's always been about relationship, always been about community, always been about being with each other. I grew up in a neighborhood up in the Bay Area. I spent a lot of time in a little city called Oakland, California. Did you bark for Oakland? I've had a lot of things said about Oakland, but never, whatever. Hey, I got you. All right. I grew up in Oakland, and I was a very angry, frustrated kid. I didn't feel like I belonged anywhere in life, and so I always went out looking for something. At a very young age, I got really big. I've always been a larger guy. And so with that and a bad attitude on my shoulder, I was always looking for a reason to fight something, anything, anyone, anytime. And I got this reputation as a guy that you just don't mess with Mike because he's going to beat you up. And I would never back down from a fight, even if I knew I was outnumbered, even though if I knew things were going to go sideways, I just could not back down. I just had this problem with my brain. And because of this lifestyle, I got spun out on drugs and drinking. I got caught up in gang life by the time I was in high school. I was a full-fledged member by the time I was 17, tattooed, jumped in, all that fun stuff. I was committed to this life. And because of that, I've learned a bunch of different things about life that hopefully you don't have to learn this way, but I look back on my experience and say, man, I wish I could have learned that differently. And one of the biggest things that I learned was all about the community, all about the people you were around with. And it was a real simple kind of like no-brainer, one of those duh. But it was, you said you never walk alone. You never let friends fight alone, anything like that. But for us, it was always, hey, if you're going somewhere, you always go with somebody else because you have no idea who's going to show up. You have no idea whose neighborhood you're walking through. You have no idea how this turns out. One day I'm walking from a friend's house, left one house and kind of leaving to go back to where a bunch of other guys are hanging out. And I'm walking and I turn a corner and pretty quickly I start to hear these guys yelling all sorts of names and insults and just talking smack. It took me a few seconds to realize they were yelling at me. I'm big, I'm not too smart, but anyway, it took me a second. I'm like, oh, hey. And just within a matter of moments, these guys swarm on me and punching and kicking and just going after me. I would like to say it was just because I was in the wrong neighborhood at the wrong time. But the fact of the matter is they started to tell me about how great their neighborhood was. And so I, of course, needed to turn around and reassure them that their neighborhood did not have good civil activities to be involved with. So I kind of told them what I thought, and we exchanged words back and forth. We threw signs back and forth and all that stuff, and pretty soon they were on top of me. Again, I'm big, I'm not smart. And so I remember just repeatedly getting hit and kicked, and by the end of it all, they just left because they were done beating me up. And I slowly kind of get myself back up. I'm pulling my lips out of my teeth. I'm trying to put my shoulder back because it doesn't work right now. And I just kind of stumble my way down the road until I can get to some friends. And I learned the simplest lesson, the hardest of ways, that you never walk into a situation alone. You never go where you shouldn't be going, and you never go there by yourself. Because I thought I was the biggest, baddest guy on my block. And real quickly, I crossed over to somebody else's block. And I think I was still the biggest and baddest. But 5 or 6, not so big, not so bad, they can still do a number to you. And I look at my life now, and I look at myself and say, man, if I went back to being 18, 19 years old, back in the streets of Oakland, there's no way I would ever walk into a situation alone. And yet in my faith, in my relationship with God, in my relationship with others, I willfully run into situations alone. Time and time again. I know, man, if I was going to get beat up, I would never want to get beat up. But just emotionally torn down, yeah, I'll do that by myself. Caught up in a secret sin that I don't want anybody else to know about, and even though it is just driving me with guilt, I'll do that alone. And time again, we look at situations and say, that's so stupid. That's so simple. And that's so us. Exactly where we're at. This guy knew that we do not do this alone, because as we fight together. As we stand together. As we do relationships, we do this together. Everything we do as followers of Jesus, we do this together. Everything we do in community, we do this together. And this guy knew the simple truth that, look, if life gets too rough for me, you come get my back. If it gets too rough for you, I got your back. You never walk alone. You always want to be surrounded with those right men and women around you. Because with the right ones, man, life can be so much different. With the wrong ones, life can be so much different. But he doesn't stop there. You see some great wisdom in this. He says, be strong and let us fight bravely for our people and the cities of our God. Joab says, look, I've got your back, but let's not stop there. Let's stand and fight for all the right reasons. See, this guy knew that they're fighting for their people and their cities and their God. They realized the decisions they make influenced how their kids are raised. If dad ever comes home, if a wife ever gets to see her husband again, if mom and dad ever get to see their kid because he's out at battle right now. They understand that the way they stand and the way they do their decisions, they stand together or they fall together. And so much of our lives is wrapped up in, okay, who we stand with or what we do. Hey, I get that, that's great. But let me ask you this. What sort of relationships are you in? Is there any intentionality about your relationships? Are you choosing the right people because who you are right now? You know there is a better way to do this. You know there's a better way to be a better student, a better friend, a better kid, a better coworker, a better boss. Are you surrounding yourself with people because someday you look at who you are now and you know this is not the person you need to be a spouse, to be a parent, to be a leader of your community, to be whatever it is that you really want to be. See, this community is awesome. I love the fact that so many of us are hanging out on a Thursday night. I love the fact that so many other things are going on throughout the rest of the week. But this would all be a waste if this was all it was. But the intentional relationships, the focus of why we do what we do, the way we come together and speak into each other's lives, the way we encourage, the way we challenge, the way we change, that's got to make us different than the rest of this world. Anybody can throw a party. But does that party matter 6 months, 6 years, 60 years from now? Are your relationships just something that, hey, this is really cool, this is really fun, but man, I'm dying inside because nobody knows me. Man, I'm so frustrated because I got into it again and again and again. And my friends, they're just yucking it up with me. They're just laughing at me. This is awesome. But nobody will speak into my life and say, you're being an idiot. You deserve more than this. Some of you are sitting here going, Mike, my life is great. I am not in that place. Sorry, that's not me. Well, then what we need you to do is be a friend that is intentional to us and say, I've walked those roads, I have those scars, and I need to speak into your life right now. Because we do not do this alone. There needs to be purpose to what we do. There needs to be intentionality. Because this guy knew, hey, it's not about me. It's about my family. It's about my friends, about everybody else we come in contact with. And it's not just about today. It's about the rest of my life. It's about our eternity together. Get surrounded. Get intentional. Last one. I love this one, and yet I think it's the hardest one we deal with. It says, if the Amorites are too strong for me, then you come to my rescue. But if the Ammonites are too strong for you, then I will come to rescue you. Be strong and let us fight bravely for our people and the cities of our God. The Lord will do what is good in his sight. The Lord will do what's good in his sight. This guy knew that, you know what? I've committed to my God. I've committed to this fight. I'm going. And now, God, you sort it out. He knew he could charge in a battle, get wiped out, and be dead. And kind of read into this like he's okay with that because he knew that this is about God. This was no longer about him. I think a lot of us say, hey, look, I love Jesus. I follow God, or I read the Bible, or hey, I'm in this cool community group, or hey, I'm checking things out. Awesome. But do we allow God to work in our lives? Are we really holding on to life loosely saying, okay, God, I got these plans, I got these dreams, I got these desires, but I'm going to let you work here. I would love to tell you that's how I do my life. I would love to tell you that everything I do starts with a prayer, and I'm like, dear Jesus, where should I walk today? Thank you, Lord. Amen. I would love to tell you I do that. Fact of the matter is my alarm goes off, I get going, and I don't even stop to think, where is God leading me in my life? And I don't think any of us are really in that place where we're like, I hate you, God, I'm going to do my own thing. It's just, hey, I'm going to do my thing. Oh, that's right. I haven't even thought about God. I would love to tell you that God is just working and changing me and all that. And I could look back over 20 years of following Jesus and say, okay, things are different. But at the same time, I have these moments where this is not about giving God room to work. This is all about Mike Hodson taking control of his life and trying to make it work the way he is. I adopted 4 kids about 6 months ago, and they're just the greatest, sweetest things in the world. They're just awesome. And I have this cute little 7-year-old girl. Her name is Tabrina. She is just the sassiest, biggest diva you'll ever meet. She is pink everything, sparkles and beautiful. She's just amazing. Nothing brings this girl down. I mean, she is one of those people that no matter what happens in life, she's laughing and talking and going. One day I pick her up from school. She doesn't say anything in the car, and normally it's, hey kids, what's going on? And we start talking, she doesn't say anything. By the time we get home, she's tearing up and she's starting to sob. And I'm like, oh, baby, what's wrong? What happened? And she goes in to tell me that these 2 girls have been picking on her for days, if not like weeks. I would love to tell you at that moment, I pulled over and said, baby, can I pray for you? Baby, let's allow God to move in this situation. For the next 12 hours, what I thought about was going to that school in the morning, saying, baby, you show me who these girls are. Come on, I'm not a psycho. I'm not going to hurt little kids. Come on. I would do it while they got dropped off so I could say, hey, is this your kid? And then throttle those parents. Because obviously they didn't teach their kid that my little girl is the princess of the universe. So I needed to educate them. It's just one of those things where I wish I could say that, oh, I gave this to God, I allowed God, but no, I really wanted to take control into my hands. Time and time again, I have these moments where it's just like, okay, yes, I trust you, I trust you, I trust you. I'll say the prayer, God, I'll go to church, I'll go to the community, I'll even open up your word, and I'll try to do things my way. And it usually comes to the things that we care most about, doesn't it? Our career path, our education, our relationship with that special someone, our drive, our desire. You know, we could trust God with so much, but when it comes to those things, I was out about 2 weeks ago, went to Target, have the whole family, and we're chilling, having a good old time. My kids are chaotic. They're just like they're like a rolling ball of destruction. Just throw them in anywhere and stuff's going to happen. It's awesome. Come on over. We'll entertain you for hours. We're walking, and I'm starting to notice that we get looks, that old people make comments, that people kind of, because like Kadri said, my wife and I, we are white. I mean, we are white. We are like Jeff Moore's white, okay? We are white. But my kids, they're more George Coltrane. Know what I'm saying? So we go out and people give us looks, and sometimes, you walk together, you don't notice, but when you're shopping with somebody, you stop and you're doing something, and then you look over and you can see other people making comments as they walk away. Oh my gosh. There were these 2 old ladies who actually pointed and kind of, no idea what they said, but I wanted to grab them by the ears and just like, you know who I am! Yeah, and that 19-year-old kid that I have tried to deal with and put away since my days in Oakland is right there. I can't say that I give that to God every time, because sometimes it just overtakes me like, But other times I look at that and say, God, that's why I need you more now than ever. God, that's why I have a group of guys in my life that I can text, that I can call at any time and say, I'm just having one of those days, man. You don't understand what's going on. I need people in my life that not only surround me and support me, but they do so intentionally. And then because of that, I can give that relationship, my life, to God and say, okay, God, what are you going to do in this? How can I actually show you in the face of these old women who are looking at my kids? How am I going to show you to this school where they're not even stopping my little girl from being picked on? How am I going to show you to these people? Because here's the thing. The moment you say, hey, I'm a Christian, you are going to represent Jesus. And you might be the only Jesus that some of your folks ever see. You might be the only Bible that anyone ever reads because they say, oh, I know Jesus. I hung out with some of his people, and let me tell you what they're all about. It's those moments where we need to allow God to work, because it's that time where it's like, oh, I can't do this. And it all comes down to our choices. Who are we surrounding ourselves with? Who are we letting influence us for good or for bad? What sort of relationships are intentionally investing in you? Now, I got no problem with having some good time friends hanging out. We always have those folks. But who are the people that know you, that know the things you don't want to talk about at parties, that know the struggles that when you give a call at 2, 3, 4 in the morning, they say, I know why they're calling. Who are the people that know you? And where are you and those relationships allowing God to move inside of you and amongst you and around you? At the Jordan, at North Coast, we do these things called growth groups, and they're a great way to get connected. This is not a growth group commercial, because I'll tell you this. Listen, this is very, very important. You know as well as I do that we can sit in a group at any time, any place, look bold-faced at somebody and say, life's good. And you know inside you are dying. You know inside you did it again last night. You know inside, I just wish someone would understand. It's not about that. The community's awesome. We need that. The way we live together, the way we do life together is vital. I'm talking about the intentional relationships where people will get in your face, where people will love you enough to tell you you're an idiot, where people will love you enough to say this can be better, not just for you, but for the spouse you'll be, for the parent you'll be, the coworker you'll be. Not for today, but because I care enough about you to give you the hard truth now, because in 10, 15, 20 years, I don't know if I'll be around to give you that hard truth. And you look at them frustrated, with tears in your eyes, pissed off because they got in your business again, and say, thank you. You are exactly who I need in my life. Who are your mighty men and mighty women in your life? As we close up, I just got 3 quick questions. The band's going to come. We're going to finish with a little bit of worship, but real quick, 3 questions. 1, who is surrounding you? You live in community. We are relational creations. Who is surrounding you? Are these people that are building into you, building you up, that are you also building into? Who's around you? Because when you look back on life, it's going to be because those people were here that I became, or because those people here that I became, That's deep right there. You can write that down. Second, where are your relationships intentional? In your life, in your relationships, can you look at those people and say, you know what? My life is better because you were there. You know what? Your life is better because I've been there. You know what? Our community is different because the way we did relationship. Not just for today, but as Christians, we have the influence to change people's eternity. We trust our God with so much. Are we willing to trust our God with somebody else's eternity? To being intentional enough to say, you know what? I love you way too much not to share this with you. Who are you surrounded with? Where are you being intentional? And the last one is, where are you allowing God to work in your relationships? Where is it that you can look at God and say, God, I cannot do this because look at where it got me before. God, this is about you. You deal with this. God, I failed again. Help me out. Friends, I can't do this. Will you pray for me? Will you just sit with me as I cry because I am broken, and just pray for me and tell me, God, work in Mike's life. Who you are, man, that's a makeup of all your experiences, all the people around you, and who you are is going to impact everyone you come in contact with. Are you surrounded? Are you being intentional? Are you allowing God to work in your life? 3 little lines from a little battle speech that could change your life, that could change your community. Let's pray. Lord, we thank you that you give us relationship with you, that we could call upon the creator of the universe and say, God, here I am, hear me. And Lord, I thank you for the relationship you give us with others, that we could say, this is not about me, this is about us. Lord, as we respond to you, may we be men and women who seek after you. May we be mighty men and women in others' lives. May we stand for a purpose and stand for a cause and love others intentionally. Lord, use this night. In your name we pray. Amen. All right. Oh, they got it. Like I say, as always, they have prayer in the back. So if you're looking for some prayer, maybe you need somebody to get in your life and you're just not even sure where to start. Grab somebody in back, get some prayer. God's moving, God's working. Just ask.